After crossing the border back into the nations, Carter waited until nightfall before passing through any towns. The air around somehow felt changed. Perhaps the magical drink was still altering his mind. He had just been gone for a few weeks. Things couldn't have changed that much. In the dark he saw a man coming towards him, but the figure only nodded a greeting. Seeing a hotel, the traveler dared to enter in search of a room. With the head drawn into his face, he went to the receptionist, who didn't ask any questions after the dollars had changed their owner. Having given his horse water, he went to his room to rest until the sun would come up. He would just pick up a few supplies and be off before any bounty hunters could see him. And after that, he would need to find a Yankee, preferably one who knew something useful. The minutes ticked by as he lay there, outstretched on the bed. He couldn't sleep. His mind wandered back to the past, back to the feeling he'd had in this strange place in the desert. He wondered if it really had been his family calling out, or if it was just his mind finally falling apart. The war had been bad enough. Coming to find one's home gone was far worse still. Getting up, he stepped to the window. He put his hands on the windowsill and with a sigh he let his head sink. "You want me to carry on?" Another deep breath followed. "There's only one way of living left. I can't just build a new house and be happy." He kept looking up at the sky and then down to the road for a moment. The voices he had heard, however, remained silent. Carter felt how his mind grew slower due to the tiredness. Going back to the bed, he laid on the side and managed to doze off a bit until the first beams of the sun shone through the window. The man stared at the ceiling. For a moment he saw no reason in getting up. Not now and not ever. He took his coat and looked at it whilst he let the cylinder rotate slowly. Click, click, click. For a single second he wondered what it felt like to be shot in the head. Then he shook his head and put the weapon back into the holster and got up. At the store he stood dumbfounded for a minute. The South had been desolated, starving when he had left for Mexico. Now the shelves were not overly full, but decently filled with goods. "Looking for something specific?" the man behind the counter asked when Carter didn't move. "No, I'm good." He tried to take his time when he gathered the groceries. Some small voice, however, drove him to hurry and get out of there. It was supple and yet present. "Those are some scars you got there, sir," the cashier remarked casually when he gave Carter the change. "Bear?" "Cougar," Carter answered, cut short, trying to keep the alarm out of his voice. Yet his spine still stiffened from the fear that he might be recognized by the other man. There must be wanted posters somewhere after all. "Well, you're lucky to be still breathing. There you go." "Thank you." Outside, the outlaw cast a glance at every wall and lamppost he passed by. Finally, close to the sheriff's office, he saw a weathered and torn poster. The picture and letters faded due to the sunlight. It was his face that stared back at him, all right. But the government hadn't updated his appearance. The hair was still short, the face still free of scars. Seeing a boy selling the daily paper, he asked, "What day is it?" The boy only looked at him as if Carter was too stupid or too drunk to tell. "Sir," he started, his voice dripping with amusement, "it's the 12th of July." 1865? Carter replied with disbelief. It could impossibly still be July. "No? 1876? Again, Carter stood dumbfounded for a moment. 76? He echoed in a low voice. This magical hotel in the desert had kept him for years. How could he not have noticed? Fear gripped him at the realization. The lure he had laid for Dabney would be wasted by now, even if he had successfully slipped out of the federal spotlight.
Soil anchors pay
Rain was drenching the man to the skin when he reached yet another town whose name he didn't care to know. He had refrained from killing any blueberries. He wanted to stay unnoticed whilst he asked around for a blond man with green eyes. The saloon was invitingly warm and dry to the stranger's weary bones, and to his luck there was a group of men in blue enjoying a game of cards and drinks. Carter sat down nearby and waited until one of the men left his chair for good after losing once too often. "You're not going to fold, old boy, are you?" "I'm done for today. No use gambling away my pay." Taking his coat, the soldier left the saloon. Carter waited a minute before getting up and sitting down at the table. "You gentlemen care to take me in?" he asked, as if he was just there for a good time. One of the Yankees nodded, motioning for him to sit. Carter placed a stack of cash on the table. Looking at his cards, he frowned on the inside. His hand could be worse, but it wasn't all too promising either. Yet instead of folding, he decided to raise the pot just to push the other players. "You are sitting here and playing," Carter started casually. "Seems like things are quiet." The Yankees eyed him for a moment before shaking off the words with a laugh. "It's never quiet, old fellow. We just enjoy a bit of company, that's all." "I thought you might be busy, you know." Carter avoided his eyes to sort his cards after adding 2 more to his hand. "Rebels, Indians, outlaws." He cut his eyes back to the man opposite of him, who returned the ominous stare. Carter knew he tried to muster the stranger, who hadn't even taken off his hat. The soldier was slightly younger than Carter, with brown hair and a mustache and very keen brown eyes. "America is never short of outlaws," he answered. "Nor of brave men upholding order." Carter had to chuckle at the self-applauding statement. "Brave men," he echoed. He saw the other faces darken when he smirked softly in a mocking manner. He suddenly felt the urge to beat them all in the game and take whatever they had just to make a point. The old fire, which had slumbered since the strange hotel in Mexico, was blazing to life again, black and raging, until Carter himself had to suppress the urge to shoot them dead. Raising the pot another time, he made an effort to quieten his vengeful self. He needed information before he could raise hell. He needed to be more of a ghost than a man this time, or the army would find him first. "My apologies, gentlemen." He tried to appease the other man. "The drink makes one talk nonsense after a while." One of them, who had slid his hand onto the holster of his coat, seemed to take the bait and relaxed. After another round, the first of the 3 men folded, and Carter could see in the other 2 faces they weren't certain of their own victory with how cool the stranger reacted every time it was his turn. "I just wondered, you see. There was a mighty bounty on the head of a man murdering Federals. You don't know what became of him by any chance?" "Bit late for that," the 3rd Yankee replied smugly. "We haven't heard from him in years. Rumor says the desert got him." "So you don't know if he's still after—" Carter paused to make the impression he was thinking. "I heard he was after Colonel." "I'm out," the next one said, throwing down his hand. He had a queen and an ace, not of the same sort, but still better than Carter's own hand. But poker was a game of deceiving and keeping a steady hand. It was only him and the man opposite now. Why would a bounty hunter be interested in a dead man? The last playing Yankee challenged. "I'm interested in your money," Carter replied smoothly, still peering at the other man out from the shadow of his head. "Are you? You don't want a showdown with me, boy, now, do you?" He returned when he noticed the implication. The Yankee threw down his cards as an answer. Carter did the same. The Yankee had a flush, but no kings, queens, or jokers. Carter at least had managed to gather 3 jokers over the time he had bought himself by raising the pot. Talking and adding cards. "It has been a pleasure, gentlemen." Carter took the money that was now his. "You want to know where he might be looking?" the same Yankee remarked. When Carter looked at him, he added, "Stephen Carter." He made it clear who he was looking for before disappearing, but that specific colonel was sent after a bunch of rebels down south. "He's not in the north." "He's busy making order." The Yankee lit a cigarette. "I think he's looking for someone too." There was a strange glint in the soldier's eyes. It was time for the outlaw to go and be on his way. He would ask around for Dabney elsewhere. Indicating a nod, he went outside. Feeling the need to relieve himself before going, he went around the back. A minute later, sudden footsteps let him turn around. His reflexes, however, didn't help when his world turned black. "There is a certain familiarity." Carter heard the voices before he saw the man. He was sitting on a chair, his hands shackled and the dull ache hammered in the back of his head. Seeing him stir, the same Yankee from the night before squatted down to look at him. Even without the hat, he needed a close look to be sure. "He still looks like the end of the war, only a bit scarred," he remarked to his comrades before asking Carter, "How did you do that?" The prisoner answered by headbutting the Federal. Getting up, he wanted to continue the assault, but the other two men held him back. A punch into the stomach let him comply. The Yankee held his bleeding nose and remained a safe distance away. The old hatred had fully flamed up by now. He wanted blood. Their blood. There was no use trying to hide anymore anyway. "Where's Dabney?" "As you said, my message made it around in the army. I sent a telegraph to my commanding officer to deal with you. I have more pressing matters." Carter looked out the window behind the Yankee. He wasn't in town anymore. He was somewhere far away, tucked away. "Why not give me to the sheriff? We need this to be a certain end. No escapes this time." "All right." Carter smiled. None of them spoke, causing the Yankees to believe he was finished and prepared to meet his end. When the man to his left came to lead him away, Carter kicked against his shins, which let the man sink down for a short moment. Carter used the time to kick the empty chair against the man on the right. The man on the ground he kicked again before taking the gun from him. He aimed at the soldier, who seemed to be the officer in the group, and shot. But the man from the right tackled him to the ground, and the shot missed the chest. The officer still went down, holding his shoulder. Another shot sounded. The bullet went straight through the soldier's head, but the dead man's weight let Carter struggle. Before his shackled hands could push the body away, the man from the left returned the favor, knocking him out with a hard punch to the face. With his head swimming and stars blurring his vision, Carter felt how he was dragged away. Only the clanking door made of bars let him understand what was happening. The taste of blood was all he could recognize. His head ached even worse than before. He tried to get up, but the world started spinning instantly. He only cursed in his thoughts as his lips refused to move before losing consciousness again. When he heard the creaking of old door hinges, Carter opened his eyes. Only slowly his vision cleared, showing him his home. He saw a small shape. His son sat on the ground and played with his wooden figures. Upon seeing his father awake, he smiled. "Ma!" he shouted into the kitchen. Lisa stepped into the doorway. Her black hair was still unbound. "How's your head, Stephen?" Her voice changed to the tone of a man when she said his name, making his mind stop to think. He blinked and raised his head, only to see the bars and the plain room instead of his home. Lisa had gone. A man in blue stood in her place. Carter knew that man. Clean-shaven, with tawny hair, they had been close back in the army even after Carter's promotion. Behind the man stood two unknown privates. "Bartholomew." Seeing the confused expression, Bartholomew turned to the man behind him. "Why don't you two get some fresh air? This here won't take long." "Sir?" Don't worry. He won't kill me. With a glance at Carter, he asked, You won't kill your old friend, right? Carter was too taken aback to be hostile. He just shook his head. Bartholomew waited until the two men had exited before coming closer. Carter sat up, trying to rub his head, only to remember his bound hands. Life on the run hasn't been kind to you, friend. Carter didn't answer. Bartholomew sighed. I would like to talk to you face to face. Can I do that, or do I have to keep you behind bars like a criminal? The unusual kindness felt strange after a long time of killing and being killed, after such a long time of hating every man wearing that particular uniform. The man in blue still waited for an answer. Carter got up. He had difficulty seeing only a federal when his memories showed him a friend standing in front of him. I think I can make an exception for you, he croaked. When Bartholomew unlocked the door and led him to the chair he had sat on before, the outlaw avoided his eyes. There was a faint feeling of shame gnawing on him deep in his guts. His friend took another chair and sat down opposite of him. You want some water? Yeah. Taking the offered canteen, he drank deeply before giving it back. Bartholomew took it, put the lock back on and stowed it away again. All the while none of them talked. Another sigh came from his friend. I still don't want to believe it was you. You need confirmation? Carter smiled faintly. His friend only looked miserably back at him. Even with all you've done, I have difficulties hating you. Not with all we've been through. It's one of the reasons I volunteered to walk with you to the news. I'm disappointed you think I go quietly. I hoped you would. You shouldn't have come. The others said the war finally drove you mad. Was it that? The bloodshed? I refuse to think you turned traitor. You even defied your father for the army. Perhaps that was wrong. Don't matter though. Signs don't matter. Not anymore. What's going on between you and Colonel Dabney? So you heard too. Rumors spread quickly, especially when the men are bored. And I'm a captain now. I hear a lot of things others don't. He's the reason I'll never go home. Bartholomew took a moment to comprehend. I see, he finally replied. No, Carter growled, feeling his hatred rise up again. You don't. Steve, you have to stop killing innocent people. None of those damn Yankees is innocent. Carter suddenly yelled in fury. I would gladly walk with you to my doom, Bartholomew. For God, no, there's nothing left for me here. But not before I riddled that son of a bitch with bullets. He had stood up as his emotions didn't let him be at ease any longer. You are hurt and grieving, but you can't take an eye for an eye. Just imagine every man in the South who lost his home would get to kill at least one Federal soldier. The circle would never end. This country would fall back into anarchy. His friend yelled back, standing up as well. Hearing the yelling, the two privates entered the house again. Don't talk to me about anarchy. Carter hissed, staring right into his friend's eyes. All guilt and shame was forgotten as the fire burned in his blood. Your home's still there. Angry sadness flickered in his friend's eyes, and before Bartholomew could utter another word, Carter took his friend's gun. Using the chain of his shackles, he put his arms around the other man's neck, holding the barrel against the head. You want your officer alive? You let me go. Damn it, Carter, what are you doing? Shush. Carter silenced his hostage. The privates, not wanting to risk their superior's life, let Carter pass. The outlaw moved slowly, always careful to not expose himself. Don't be a fool. They will send men after you as soon as we're out of sight. Bartholomew kept talking as Carter walked away from the house and into the wilderness. "You should know I ain't that short-sighted." Carter whistled in case Runner was close by. "Christ's sake, those are husbands and fathers you are killing." Ignoring the statement, he whistled again. He hoped his horse was nearby. They were starting to disappear amongst the trees and bushes. Even if that gave him cover, only a ride would grant him safety. "He can't hear you." "Oh, Runner is clever. He is around, I'm sure of it." "How do you want to ride with those shackles?" "I'll figure it out." "Damn it, you haven't changed at all. Still the same stubborn son of a bitch." Having lost sight of the Yankees, Carter pushed his friend to the ground. Bartholomew turned around to not be shot in the back and froze when the barrel pointed at him. "Where's Dabney?" he demanded in a cold voice. "You can't expect me to sell out a comrade. He ain't no man. He's a snake." Bartholomew seemed to struggle on the inside. "Don't think I won't shoot." Again the man in blue sighed, this time in defeat. "He's somewhere down here. He resigned after your message made it round. Went hunting for some criminals himself." After a moment of silence he asked, "What now, Stephen?" Carter hesitated. He could have shot anyone, but not his friend. Feeling his hand starting to tremble, he turned around. Then he turned back again. "You should shoot me. You have to, or I will drag you back." Suddenly the outlaw shot over the other man's head and screamed all his rage into the wilderness. "Steve?" Carter looked at the man still sitting on the ground. "You have to choose, Steve. Revenge or penance." "I owe them, Bart. Nothing else matters. Not who I was, not what I fought for, only justice." "Are you defending yourself now?" Bartholomew retorted with gentle sternness. "No." "Go ahead then." Letting the barrel sink, Carter turned to go. Hearing his friend get up, he whipped around and shot 3 times. "Good shot." The Federal winced. One bullet had grazed his thigh, another had hit him close to the ribs. "Keep pressure on it." "Will I see you again, Steve?" Their eyes locked for what would be the last time. "God be with you, my friend." Not looking back, Carter ran into the thicket. He stumbled a few times, but he didn't stop running out of fear of being caught again. Once he was a safe distance away, he would figure out those shackles. Hearing a horse neigh from afar, he stopped to listen. He whistled. He waited. Runner had indeed been close by. Breaking through the bushes, he stopped with a snort. "Good boy. How did you find me?" Not wasting time, he mounted, and together they spurted away.